One of the most beautiful phones of all time did finally arrive at my doorstep. As you know, I'm a huge fan of the iPhone 5, so I thought maybe an iPhone 5 on steroids without grey backside paint that flakes off would be even better than this. So bibbidi bobbidi boo, I found myself on eBay and spent $30 to finally hold one of these in my hands and to record this video for you. So, the year is 2013. Apple decided to move forward to a more modern looking operating system with animations that steal more of your time than a 2020 idle mobile game when you don't want to spend real world money. And I don't really want to start a war in the comments, since there are many people who love the classic look and others who like the more modern look. But I think we can all agree that in 2013 it was pretty much expectable that Apple too jumps on the train of basic and clean styles. And the iPhone 5S was the phone they released along that update. If we take a closer look at these two beauties, I think we can see that also the device itself looks a little bit more futuristic and also worthier. A lot of that impression comes from the new home button that includes Touch ID. But also when you take these two in your hands, the 5S for some strange reason feels way worthier. And I don't exactly know why, since the dimensions and even the weight are identical. Anyway, let's take a glimpse at its outside. On top, the power button. On the left side, the silent switch and the volume buttons. On the bottom, a mic, a speaker, a headphone jack and the lightning port, and on the right side we can find the SIM tray. On the back side, as I mentioned, grey paint that doesn't easily flake off, the camera, a slightly different flash and some glass, so you have the opportunity to invite Spider-Man to your backside as well. On the front, the 326 ppi 4-inch Retina display we already know from the iPhone 5 and in smaller dimensions from the iPhone 4. Also we can find one of the key features of the iPhone 5S, the first ever Touch ID home button to be in an iPhone. And I want to tell you something that still blows my mind as I sit in my room and talk information about the iPhone 5S into my computer mic. This Touch ID sensor works so goddamn well. It recognizes my finger almost immediately every time, and personally I'd actually say that it works better than the Touch ID sensor in my iPad Air 4. But this can't be everything, right? As we all know from earlier models, the S stands for steroids. You get a similar form factor with a boosted hardware and a massively improved performance. So where did Apple inject the new power? First of all, into the new chip. The iPhone 5S features the Apple A7, the first 64-bit processor ever used in a smartphone, plus the M7 Motion coprocessor. Above that, you might be able to say that it, under lab conditions, came with a minimally improved battery time. Furthermore, the camera was slightly improved and featured slow motion videos. Surprisingly, it still came with 1 GB of RAM, which was one of the reasons it was discontinued with iOS 13. Also, it featured the same memory variants as the iPhone 5, 16, 32 and 64 gigs, which isn't quite a lot. But we all got a new backside color. Next to grey and silver, Apple introduced a golden model, and as you can see, the grey variant changed a little. But this video is titled The iPhone 5S in 2022, so how does it hold up today? And this is actually a pretty interesting question. It runs iOS 12, which is the 2018-19 version of the operating system, which means that generally the iPhone 5S and its software is outdated by at least 3 years. But when I started to fill up the 16 gigs of this device, what honestly didn't take more than 10 minutes, the only problem I faced was that I had to download older versions of some of the apps I wanted to install. So you technically can still use apps like Spotify, even though you have to have them in your previously downloaded section on the App Store, and you might miss out on future features. The next question in line is, while you can technically install and use apps and games, is it actually enjoyable to fire up this old piece of aluminium to cut a fruit or two, to escape the horrifying half-ape, half-hell demon creatures from an ancient temple, or to scroll through a feed and check out what the other two people who still use Facebook are up to? The answer isn't even no, because a no would absolutely understate what it feels like. The iOS 12 iPhone 5S experience is horrible. It's a real pain in the ass, to be completely honest. For some apps, you literally wait minutes to get a 50% chance that you're allowed to play the game or use the app with a 10 to 20 FPS performance. Jetpack Joyride, for example, such a classic game, runs partially until you reach these parts with more barriers, and the iPhone 5S is almost exploding in your hands because it's simply too much. And I'm brutally honest, plus still surprised that I even come to this conclusion, this might even be more pain in the ass than the iPhone 4 on iOS 7 and the iPhone 3G on iOS 4 altogether. The one and only thing you can still do in an acceptable speed is scrolling through your home screen pages and use stock apps. So all in all, it's one of the most beautiful phones I've ever owned. seriously, but in terms of usability you can totally forget it. What brings me to the iPhone SE 1, which is more or less an iPhone 5S on crystal meth. Also, I've seen that you can technically downgrade or dual boot this device, so you might be able to get some of the known better performance back. But it would be somehow stupid to test a dual boot with a 16 gig variant, since the second operating system is going to fill up your storage. I hope you enjoyed this video and I didn't stop you from firing up your old iPhone 5S and check out some games. Give this video a thumbs up and leave a subscription if you want to watch more videos like this one. What do you think about the 5S? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Adios amigos.